Welcome to our presentation. Today we're going to be talking about the flexibility of all the different FME deployments that we have. My name is Jen and I do all of the cloud support at SAFE. So that could be anything from connecting FME desktop to different cloud systems and services or installing FME server in the cloud.
My name's Stuart Harper and I oversee the cloud group at Safe Software.
So in today's presentation, we're going to be talking about all the different deployments of FME. So all the different places you can deploy FME, desktop and server, and the different considerations that may impact which is the best deployment option for you. So we'll be talking about FME on premises and FME in the cloud. So as you've probably already seen this morning in earlier presentations, we have multiple different products in the FME platform. So we have FME Desktop, which is where you author your workspaces and we'll publish them up to FME Server if you want to automate them. And you can also run in desktop as well. FME Server and FME Cloud are the two products that we're going to be focusing on in this presentation. But we do also have FME Mobile, which you can run workspaces from on the go. And organizations must be able to deploy solutions anywhere. Which is why we support so many different deployment types for the FME platform. And we are seeing more and more organizations come to us looking for support as they migrate from on-premises to the cloud.
So you're looking to deploy the FME platform. Let's review a few things that you should consider before you start going down the path of choosing a specific FME server deployment. So the first thing I want to talk about is security. So there's kind of two main pillars to security. The first is related to data and the second authentication. So when it comes to data, you really need to understand the data that's flowing onto the FME server. Does the data have to reside within your corporate firewall? Can the data go up onto the cloud? If it can go up on the cloud, does it have to reside within your country or stay within Europe? Have you got any personal information in your data? Because if you do, then you're open to GDPR compliance and things like that. So really understand and kind of get to grips with what data you're going to be processing on the platform, because this is really going to impact the deployments you choose. The next is kind of related, and that's network restrictions. So, where does that data reside? Let's imagine it's in a database on premises. Well, if you can't punch a hole in the firewall and open that network up, to the public internet or to another network somewhere else, FME is going to be tied to being deployed in that same network. So you really need to understand the security constraints of the network that your data resides in, because that's going to heavily influence where you can deploy that FME server. Finally, authentication. Are you going to use the off-the-shelf FME server authentication, or are you going to plug into your corporate security infrastructure? So if you're going to plug into, say, Windows Active Directory, then obviously you need to deploy in the same network as where your Active Directory server is. You might be using Okta as an organization and leveraging SAML, and then that might give you more flexibility. So you really need to understand that side of things as well. So next up and kind of related is data location. But rather than looking at this from a security perspective, we'll look at it from a performance perspective. So for optimal performance, FME needs to be as close to the data as possible. And this is for FME Desktop or FME Server. Obviously, if you're working with small data volumes, say in the megabytes or low gigabytes, then this is not really a concern. Network speed is so fast these days that the data is going to arrive very, very quickly. Really, this is a concern if you're working with terabytes of data or you need very, very low latency. But yeah, as data volumes grow, server location becomes more and more important. So understand the volume of data you're going to be processing and understand kind of an SLA on the latency that you want to deliver as well. Next up is expertise and resources. So this is something that's really important. Deploying FME Desktop is easy. Honestly, you just install it on any computer or virtual machine. The same can be said for FME Server. You can just stand up a single virtual machine and install FME Server on Windows using an installer, for example. But as soon as you start getting more complicated, fault-tolerant deployments on multiple VMs, you're looking to scale on Kubernetes, you need expertise in related technology, either cloud technologies or container technologies. So think about that up front. There's no point in deploying on Kubernetes and building this grand cluster if then there's going to be no one to maintain it. And finally, the easiest path to FME Server really is FME Cloud. It's a managed solution, and Jen will talk a little bit more about this later. But yeah, this is in a web browser, a couple of clicks, a few minutes, and you have an FME Server running. Finally, I want to talk about ease of scaling. So there's kind of two processing models you can adopt with FME Server. One is where you have a dedicated CPU processing. So this will be a standard FME engine, it's called. And this FME engine is there all the time. So essentially, when you have these standard FME engines, it makes sense to stand up infrastructure that's permanent. So launch a virtual machine that's permanent. In this scenario, you don't really have to worry about scaling. More and more people are signing up and purchasing dynamic engines, and dynamic engines is based on CPU time. So you purchase, say, 5,000, 10,000 hours of credits, and then you can have as many engines as you want that will connect and they will use the credits up over time. This model is very, very well suited to when data processing varies. For example, you might have a large spike in data processing once a month where you scale up 100 engines and you're only going to pay for the processing time that those 100 engines use. If you need to do this or you want to do this, then cloud-based infrastructure lends itself really, really well to these workflows. And now you can dynamically add VMs using auto-scale groups. You can scale Kubernetes clusters up and down by adding nodes very, very easily. So again, this is a consideration. If you're looking to do scaling, you really need to think about that up front as well. FME Cloud, these can be scaled up and down. It allows you to do it one click. It's not as powerful as dynamic engines, but there is some flexibility there.
Okay, so thanks, Stuart, for walking us through the different considerations for when you're deploying FME. Now we'll just have a review of the different deployment options for FME Server. So we have a few on this list. All of these can be deployed in the cloud, and most of these can be deployed on premises as well. So the express install of FME Server is probably the quickest installation type that you can do yourself. So this installs all of the components of FME Server on one virtual machine. And you can also distribute those components as well. So if you're interested in fault tolerance or high availability, perhaps you have business critical workflows, you can distribute those components. We also support container-based deployments. So if you use Docker or Kubernetes, we can provide Docker Compose files and Helm charts online. And you can take that one step further with serverless. So you can use AWS Fargate to deploy Kubernetes in serverless architecture. We also have cloud marketplace templates on both Azure and Google Cloud Platform, which allows you to install the FME platform, which is an express installation of FME Server with an FME desktop to go with it on the same virtual machine. We also have a distributed FME Server available on Azure, which makes use of the Azure storage system, the Azure databases, load balancers, and virtual machine scale sets. And then last on this list is FME Cloud, which is the simplest way to deploy FME Server because we at SAFE manage all of the infrastructure and installation for you, so you just have to worry about using FME Server. So just to recap the installation options that we have on premises, FME Desktop you can install natively on Windows, Linux, and Mac. And then FME Server you can do an express or distributed installation on Windows or Linux. And our container-based options you can deploy on premises, but these are Linux-based because our containers are all built on Ubuntu. So McDonald's China is one of our customers who needed to integrate data to power business decisions, such as new restaurant site selection, growth modeling, and delivery modeling. They installed FME Server on premises so they could connect to multiple business systems and integrate a range of data including population, income, customer traffic, base maps, and other data. So FME in the cloud, if you want to manage your installation yourself on a cloud provider. So FME Desktop allows you to install on any cloud provider. You just start a VM, and then you can use Remote Desktop to go and access that virtual machine and use FME Desktop. And as mentioned, you can also use the FME Platform Cloud Marketplace option if you're running in Google or Azure, and you get access to FME Desktop. And then FME Server has many options. So again, you can launch a virtual machine, do an FME Server Express installation, a distributed installation, or use containers. And again, you have the Cloud Marketplace deployments. And if you're in AWS, you can use the serverless infrastructure. So IHS Markit is another customer of ours that's using FME Server. So they needed to migrate terabytes of data into one central cloud data warehouse to support business intelligence users. They chose FME Server and Dynamic Engines deployed on Kubernetes so they could spin up multiple engines to enable parallel processing and keep costs low by only paying for the number of processing hours used. IHS Markit was able to complete their migration to Snowflake from Denodo in only 5 hours. Blue Dot is another customer who used Dynamic Engines. So they needed an enterprise integration solution to bring data into their global early warning system for disease outbreaks. By leveraging Dynamic Engines and FME Server, they are able to spin up as many engines as needed across multiple machines to manage peaks in data processing demands. By automating web scraping for disease-related data, they were able to issue an alert through their Insights platform about COVID-19 7 days earlier than the World Health Organization. FME also enables them to deliver data and analytics insights to their clients' preferred cloud data storage locations, such as Amazon S3, ArcGIS Online, and Snowflake. So last but not least, we have FME Cloud, which is the easiest way to run FME Server because we manage the infrastructure for you, which is great for cloud-based workflows, great for prototyping solutions and testing things out quickly. We also have a pay-as-you-go pricing model. So if your workflow doesn't run 24/7, you can sort of keep your FME Cloud instance running, pause it when you don't need it, and start it up again when you need to start processing data. And then a few considerations for FME Cloud. It's only on Linux, so that might impact the formats that are supported. You don't have any access to the backend infrastructure, so you can't install third-party software. And the price is based on instance size. So while you have unlimited engines, you are constrained to the size of your instance for what you can run. So Cochranville AG Service wanted to enable their users to generate Excel reports containing crop rotation information and customer data directly from the Salesforce interface. Given crop rotation reports from Salesforce, which contain huge volumes of complex information, they wanted to enable users to click a button and generate an informative and well-formatted Excel report. They created an FME workspace to query Salesforce based on given parameters, process the crop rotation data, and arrange the data in an informative Excel report. They then published this workspace to FME Cloud and used the FME Server REST API and connect it to a Salesforce workflow. Now users can click a button to request an Excel report from Salesforce, and FME processes the job and delivers the report to them via email.
Okay, great. Thanks for that, Jen. So let's wrap things up here now. First up, these are links to resources on our community, and basically they provide an overview of how you get started with each of the deployment options that Jen talked about. So yeah, dive in there if you're looking to kind of get going with any of those different deployment options. Next up, please subscribe to our newsletter to be the first to receive news related to FME events, webinars, and latest product info as well. It's a really great feed. It's also worth checking out the FME Accelerator program if you're new to FME. This is a free 90-minute kind of hands-on workshop, and it gives a really good overview of the FME platform. You'll also get to meet some of the FME experts as well and kind of start to engage with them. So if you've made a decision that you're going to trial FME Server, we've got a few options for you. You can trial FME Server free for 60 days. You get 2 standard engines and 100 hours of dynamic engine processing time. The installer's there on our website. You can also sign up on the website for FME Cloud for a free trial, and we'll give you $250 of credit there as well, which is about a month of usage. Yeah, so that brings us to the end of our presentation. Many thanks for joining us and enjoy the rest of the event. Thanks.